Macau is tiny, barely 12 square miles on China's southern coast. Yet for years, this small city has earned more from gambling than anywhere else on Earth, even more than Las Vegas. How did Macau become the gambling capital of the world? That's the story we're going to tell today. A tale of sailors and silver, monopolies and mega resorts, high rollers and crackdowns, booms, busts, and reinvention. To understand Macau, you have to start with the geography. Macau sits at the mouth of the Pearl River Delta, a short ferry or bridge ride from Hong Kong, and a quick trip from some of the most densely populated and economically powerful regions of China. For centuries, this spot was a gateway between China and the world. And that gateway is the thread that ties Macau's past to its present. The city's colonial story begins in the 16th century. Portuguese traders, sailing the spice routes and chasing silver, negotiated a foothold on this tiny peninsula. They paid rent to Chinese authorities, built churches and warehouses, and turned Macau into a staging post between East and West. For Europe, Macau became a door into China. For China, a controlled window to the outside world. From the beginning, visitors came to Macau to take chances. On cargoes, on wins, and eventually, on games. In 1847, under Portuguese rule, gambling was legalized. That decision didn't create a glittering casino city overnight, but it planted a seed. For locals and visitors, wagering became part of Macau's economy, regulated, taxed, and tolerated. For the next 100 years, Macau's fortunes rose and fell with the tides of Asian trade. The city never matched Hong Kong's scale, but it offered something different, a slower pace, a blend of Chinese and Portuguese culture, and a reputation for leisure that would quietly shape its future. The modern era really begins in 1962. That year, the Portuguese administration granted a gambling concession, a monopoly, to a consortium led by a charismatic businessman named Stanley Ho. His company would eventually be known by 4 letters that became synonymous with Macau: STDM. Under this arrangement, one company controlled the city's legal casinos, the iconic ferries from Hong Kong, and much of the tourism infrastructure that fed the tables. The monopoly era defined Macau for 4 decades. The flagship was Lisboa, its neon lotus blooming on postcards and skyline photos. Inside, baccarat and other table games reigned. Baccarat is simple to play but built for high stakes. Perfect for VIPs who wanted privacy, speed, and big bets. The money that flowed through these rooms made Macau famous, or infamous, depending on your view. Around the casinos, a gray economy grew. Journalists and scholars have described how, in those years, organized groups known as junkets brought high rollers to Macau, extended them credit, and helped collect debts back home. In the shadows, triad gangs were sometimes reported to have influence in protection and debt enforcement. The line between hospitality and pressure could blur. Yet, from the government's perspective, the formula worked. Taxes were paid, visitors arrived, and Macau's brand hardened. This was the place for serious gambling. Meanwhile, history moved on. In 1999, after more than 4 centuries of Portuguese administration, Macau returned to Chinese sovereignty under the one country, two systems framework. Like neighboring Hong Kong, Macau would retain its own laws, currency, and border controls, while becoming a special administrative region of China. That change set the stage for the single most important shift in Macau's modern story. The shift was liberalization. In the early 2000s, the Macau government ended the single company monopoly and opened competitive licenses to new operators. Suddenly, the gates swung open wide. American casino giants, names familiar from the Las Vegas Strip, won licenses and teamed up with local partners. Investment money poured in, and an empty strip of reclaimed land between the islands of Taipa and Kowloon got a new name: Cotai. Cotai would become the stage for an unprecedented building boom. Think of it as Macau's answer to the Strip. A purpose-built boulevard of mega resorts. The formula was simple and widely ambitious. Larger gaming floors in Vegas, vast hotel towers, luxury shopping arcades, Michelin-starred dining, elaborate theaters, and indoor attractions designed to keep visitors on property for days. The timing was perfect. China's economy was rising fast. A new middle class, and above it, a new elite with deep pockets, were looking for entertainment. Macau, just across the border, using familiar language and food, and accessible on a weekend, was ideal. On the mass market side, tour groups filled hotel lobbies. On the VIP side, the junket system adapted to the new scale, ushering whale gamblers into private salons, where a single baccarat table could see more money in a night than some casinos see in a month. Revenues soared. At its peak years, Macau's gaming take was several times that of Las Vegas. Luxury brands lined marble corridors. Skyline shots of the Cotai Strip with its themed palaces and mirrored facades, appeared in travel shows worldwide. For a while, Macau wasn't just a gambling hub, it was the gambling hub. But any city built on risk understands that the wheel doesn't always land on your number. Macau's rise came with vulnerabilities. One was concentration. The city relied heavily on visitors from mainland China, especially high rollers whose spending could swing monthly numbers from boom to slump. Another was the structure of the VIP business. Junket operators extended credit and managed discreet relationships across borders, arrangements that regulators would increasingly scrutinize. In the mid-2010s, Beijing launched an aggressive campaign against corruption and capital outflows. The message was clear: conspicuous, questionable spending would be checked. In Macau, VIP revenues fell sharply. Junkets closed or consolidated. The industry pivoted towards mass market visitors, conventions, and entertainment. Casinos responded by adding family-friendly attractions, shows, and non-gaming amenities, trying to keep rooms full even if baccarat slowed. Then came the pandemic. Borders tightened, ferries and flights were suspended, foot traffic vanished. For a city built on visitors, it was a shock like no other. Resorts dimmed their lights, hotel towers stood empty, and the economy contracted. It was a reminder that tourism is a delicate ecosystem, and that resilience requires more than one pillar. As travel resumed, Macau began to rebuild, cautiously, then faster as visitor flows returned. With recovery came a strategic choice: double down on gaming or diversify. The official answer has been both, but with a new emphasis. Recent license renewals have come with commitments to invest in non-gaming, conventions and exhibitions, cultural events, sports tourism, theme attractions, and more. The goal is to keep Macau's position in gaming while broadening the reasons to visit. To appreciate how this small city climbed so high, and why it hit turbulence, you need to step inside the mechanics of Macau's casinos. The gaming floor is split into two broad categories: mass market and VIP. The mass market looks something like Las Vegas: tables and slots, bus tours, family groups, comps. The VIP side is different: private rooms, high-limit tables, and discreet service. For years, the VIP segment generated a large share of revenue. In the heyday, junket promoters functioned like specialized travel agencies for the very wealthy. They organized luxury trips, extended credit, settled accounts, and supplied a crucial ingredient: trust. In tightly regulated financial systems, moving money across borders can be complicated. In cultures where personal relationships are paramount, intermediaries matter. Junkets lived in that space. But as regulation tightened, especially around anti-money laundering and source of funds checks, the high roller model had to evolve. Operators brought more VIP activity in-house, compliance teams grew, and the era of the freewheeling junket faded. Macau's social fabric has been pulled by these swings. On the one hand, casinos brought jobs, thousands of them: dealers, hotel staff, chefs, designers, and technicians. Wages rose, infrastructure improved, the city built museums, parks, housing, and a dramatic set of bridges that now link the region in ways older generations could barely imagine. On the other hand, dependence on gaming creates vulnerabilities. When tables go quiet, entire neighborhoods feel it. Policymakers face a balancing act: promoting growth while protecting residents, encouraging tourism while preserving culture. And culture matters here. Walk through Senado Square at dusk and you'll see pastel facades straight out of Southern Europe, tiled sidewalks in Portuguese patterns, and Chinese signs glowing above bakeries selling almond cookies. Take a few more steps and you'll reach the ruins of St. Paul's, the stone facade of the 17th century church that survived fire and time to become Macau's postcard image. This blend, Chinese heritage and Lucifine legacy, is Macau's soul. It's also a reminder: long before the neon, Macau's power was its ability to connect worlds. Let's take a step back and go through the turning points clearly, because they show how a niche became a juggernaut. First turning point: legalization in the 19th century. That set Macau apart from its neighbors. When gambling is legal, you can tax it, regulate it, and build an industry around it. Second turning point: the monopoly concession in the 1960s. One company, backed by formidable business networks, built an ecosystem: ferries, hotels, marketing, that made Macau a destination. It wasn't glossy by modern standards, but it was efficient, and it created a brand. Third turning point: the 1999 handover to China, followed by competitive liberalization. Opening the market to multiple operators unleashed billions in capital. Las Vegas-style integrated resorts arrived. bringing global standards in entertainment, shopping, dining, and architecture. Cotai went from reclaimed land to a neon cityscape in just a few years. Fourth turning point, the growth of mainland China's economy. When hundreds of millions of people move into the middle class, some into the ranks of the ultra-rich, countries near them feel it. Macau became the weekend playground for a vast, newly affluent population. And the fifth turning point, policy shifts and global shocks. Anti-corruption campaigns, stricter financial oversight, and the pandemic all showed that Macau's model had single points of failure. The city responded by pushing non-gaming offerings and by strengthening compliance. In the end, Macau became the gambling capital of the world by doing what port cities have always done. Meeting demand at the water's edge, translating between cultures, balancing risk and reward. The tables may be modern, the towers made out of glass, but the logic is ancient. Create a place where people want to come, and give them reasons to stay. From colonial outposts to Monopoly Town, from neon lotus to mirrored palaces, from VIP junket rooms to family-friendly mega resorts, Macau has continually reinvented itself. Whether it can do so again, beyond gambling, will decide if the world's gaming capital remains a capital in every sense. Thanks for watching this episode of Every Country. If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe for more deep dives into how places become what they are. And tell me in the comments, which city or country should we cover next? Las Vegas? Monaco? Something completely different? There's a lot of stories and histories to tell, and we'll do it here on Every Country.